If you dare do anything suspicious, I will cut you down on the spot, threatens Schmerz, humanity's ultimate hero, glaring daggers at his gorgeous new bride. But Lieselata, the horned daughter of the demon lord, just gives him a smug smirk, telling him there's no need to be so hostile since they're about to become husband and wife, so they might as well get along. Yep, you heard that right. Today is the big wedding day, and honestly, this is the exact moment Lieselata, a girl feared by all of humanity, has been eagerly waiting for. To understand how we ended up with this wildly spicy political marriage, we gotta rewind a bit. In this world, there are two distinct realms: Ideal, the land of demons, and the human kingdom of Etoile. For the longest time, these two nations minded their own business, flourishing in total isolation. That is, until year 695 of the demon calendar, when the big bad demon lord rallied his monstrous army, complete with a heavily endowed witch because Manga, and went on an absolute rampage across human territory. The humans obviously fought back, turning a few border skirmishes into a full-blown, grueling bloodbath known as the Demon Invasion War. The fighting dragged on forever, draining both sides dry, until one random day, the human king gets the shock of his life when his advisor drops a massive bombshell. The demon lord is asking for a ceasefire. The king practically has a stroke on his throne, completely dumbfounded that the cruel, inhumane monster who slaughtered humans like cattle suddenly wants to hold hands, claiming they can all have a wonderful future together. Oh, but it gets better, because as a sign of peace, the demon lord offers up his own flesh and blood as a bride, his daughter, Lieselata, famously known as the Undead Witch. The king is sweating bullets, wondering how the hell they're supposed to sleep at night with an eerie necromancer living in their castle, but the advisor points out that she'll be totally surrounded by elite troops and adventurers, meaning she won't be able to pull any funny business. Plus, the peace treaty literally comes with a brutal terms of service agreement that says, feel free to cut her down if she causes any trouble. The king gulps, realizing the terrifying truth. The demon lord is basically turning his own daughter into a disposable hostage. With no better options, the peace terms are accepted, leading us straight to today's incredibly awkward royal wedding. Outside the gorgeous castle church, the weather is absolute perfection, but the vibe is utterly miserable. The human nobles are gathered in their fancy clothes, gossiping and complaining, absolutely furious that their kingdom is actually sane enough to let a cold-blooded demon into their home after her kind destroyed their towns. Peering out the window at the glaring, blood-boiling mob, Lieselata's cute maid nervously points out that they are pretty much universally hated in this country. But Lieselata? She just elegantly crosses her legs, flashes a stunningly wicked smile, and chuckles, telling her maid to pay the haters no mind. After all, they're just terrified of them. Getting her hair done by her incredibly biased maid, Lieselata scoffs at the angry human mob outside, boasting that even though she's practically alone in enemy territory, she is more than enough to make humanity shake in their boots because humans are just that pathetic. Her maid totally feeds into her ego, saying the demon citizens must be heartbroken losing someone as breathtakingly powerful as her, though Lieselata finds that highly doubtful. Letting out a dark, villainous chuckle, she declares that absolutely nothing in this world scares her, and honestly, she doesn't even care about those other demons. For her, this wedding is just stepping stone number one. Her maid wishes her luck as the ceremony is announced, and Lieselata puts on her best diplomatic face, claiming this is all for peace between demons and humans. But the second she drops her guard, a terrifying, shadowy aura erupts around her as she sinisterly thinks to herself that this marriage is actually all for her own secret, dark ambitions. Oh boy, the groom is in for a wild ride. Inside the main hall, the tension is so thick you could cut it with a broadsword. The king looks like he's about to pass out, and the human nobles are sweating buckets, whispering about how they still don't trust the demon lord's intentions, though they are relieved that literally 0 demons showed up on the bride's side to crash the party. Sitting in the front pews like a medieval Secret Service detail is the hero's party, quietly agreeing that if Lieselata tries anything even remotely fishy, they'll jump her on the spot, reminding each other not to get cocky even if it seems like a piece of cake. But all that intense paranoia vanishes the second the man of the hour steps into the room. The crowd absolutely erupts for Schmerz. Women are swooning, grown men are cheering, and everyone is fawning over his legendary holy sword, the exact weapon he used to slice and dice countless demons to save their kingdom. His party members watch from the sidelines, visibly annoyed that he's being treated less like a warrior and more like an A-list K-pop idol, complete with the shiny, camera-ready smile that makes the fangirls scream. But his perfect main character moment is suddenly interrupted by an ominous rumbling. The bright, sunny weather outside vanishes in an instant, replaced by a dark, stormy sky. The heavy church doors swing open, and in walks Lieselata, strutting down the aisle with an intense, glowing glare that instantly shuts the crowd up. The nobles shrink back in pure terror, muttering about her dreadful horns as she approaches the altar. Schmerz stares her down, totally aware that this sudden horror movie weather is absolutely her doing. As they finally stand face to face, the ultimate hero glares with pure hostility, while the Demon Lord's daughter just hits him with that infuriatingly smug smirk, setting the stage for what is about to be the most chaotic exchange of vows in history. Staring down his new demonic bride, Schmerz makes it crystal clear that he isn't playing games. "This is our first time meeting," he growls, warning her that if she pulls anything even remotely suspicious, he will cut her down on the spot. But Lieselata? She just gives him that signature smug look, purring that there's no need to be so hostile since they're about to be husband and wife, so they should probably try to get along. Schmerz isn't having any of it, though. Leaning in close, he practically hisses that she shouldn't get the wrong idea. This whole engagement is strictly to keep the world from ending, and he's just acting as a glorified babysitter to make sure she behaves. To drive the point home, he gets right in her face, deadpan declaring, "Mark my words, I will not consider you my wife." Any normal girl would be crying at the altar by now, but Lieselata just lets out a creepy little chuckle, actually making the ultimate hero shiver. Deciding it's time to show these humans who they're really dealing with, Lieselata decides to flex. A massive, suffocating dark aura explodes from her body, the sheer pressure so intense that the literal stone walls of the castle church start cracking. The royal guards are immediately sweating bullets, absolutely terrified that this elite member of the Demon Lord's army is about to pack them all into coffins. Schmerz steps back, hand hovering near his sword, demanding to know what she's planning, but the damage is already done. The church erupts into absolute chaos. Civilians are screaming, crying for their mommies, and panicking, while the nobles start throwing a massive fit, screaming that they never should have agreed to this demonic union. The hero's party tries to calm the crowd down, but the mob mentality takes over. Fueled by past grudges, the humans start chanting for her head, screaming to eradicate all demons and kill her right there on the altar. Surrounded by a literal lynch mob, Lieselata just smirks. Putting a hand to her cheek, she drops a sarcastic apology for making them all a little bit nervous. But then her eyes go dead serious. She reminds the trembling nobles that she isn't here to hurt anyone, but if they actually manage to murder her right now, her father's army isn't just going to sit around and write a strongly worded letter. A brand new, totally devastating war will break out immediately. With a wicked smile, she extends her hand, asking, "I'm sure we all have had enough of the war, so let's get along, yes?" It's the most badass, thinly veiled threat ever delivered at a wedding. Most of the humans are frozen in fear, but one guard absolutely loses his mind. Screaming, "Nonsense!" he charges right at the bride with his halberd raised. Schmerz immediately jumps in, yelling for the guard to stop, but the dude takes a massive swing anyway. But does the Demon Lord's daughter need a Prince Charming to save her? Absolutely not. She doesn't even bat an eyelash. Standing face to face with the trembling, sweating attacker, Lieselata glares at him with eyes full of utter disdain, and with terrifying, bone-chilling authority, she simply commands, "Drop your weapon." Honestly, she didn't just command him. She basically told the entire human race to sit down. Without even laying a finger on him, the attacking guard is suddenly yanked into the air with a magical poof before slamming face first into the stone floor. The crowd starts whispering in absolute disbelief, realizing the guy was literally floating mid-air. Watching this brutal display of casual magic, Schmerz quietly chides himself, remembering that he didn't even need to step in to protect her. She isn't just the Demon Lord's daughter, she's an elite military powerhouse who could probably wipe the floor with most of the room. Leaning fully into her terrifying reputation as the undead witch, Lieselata decides to dial the intimidation up to 11, by summoning a small army of creepy, cloaked phantoms right there on the altar. The human nobles look like they're about to need a change of pants, but Lieselata simply puts a hand over her heart and delivers a flawless, bone-chilling vow. She promises the terrified audience that if she ever breaks her word, she will pay for the mistake with her own life. With a hauntingly graceful curtsy, she declares that this marriage is the first step toward peace and wishes them all a pleasant future. It's basically the ultimate "I could kill you all, but I choose not to" flex. With the humans thoroughly put in their place, the priest nervously presents the marriage contract. Under the heavy, suspicious glares of the king, the hero's party, and every surviving guard in the room, Lieselata smoothly signs her name. The deed is officially done. As she struts back down the aisle, she shoots the king a look so intensely dominating that he actually flinches, leaving the crowd silently cursing the damn undead witch as she leaves them in her shadowy dust. Later, out in the castle halls, her biased little maid is absolutely buzzing. She praises Lieselata for a flawless performance, hyped that the ceremony went off without a hitch and that her mistress successfully traumatized the entire human race. Lieselata plays it cool, agreeing that she definitely instilled fear in them. But when the maid excitedly mentions that they'll now be living together with Schmerz the hero, and that with the two of them combined, nothing can stop their demonic plans, Lieselata stammers a very unvillainous "yeah." Once Schmerz is walking away and out of earshot, she lets out a dark, quiet chuckle. But then, the terrifying, world-ending demon princess suddenly blushes like a high schooler on prom night. Clutching her chest, her intimidating aura completely shatters as she squeals internally. I did it. I finally did it. The first step of achieving my ambitions." And what exactly is this grand, dark, world-ending ambition? Total global domination? Wiping out humanity? Nope. The big bad demon princess is secretly, hopelessly, head over heels in love with Schmerz. Turns out she's been secretly yearning for the hero this entire time, fully accepting that her massive crush would forever remain unrequited since their races were literally at war. Even though he just coldly told her at the altar that he would never consider her his true wife, Lieselata literally does not care. In her mind, they aren't enemies anymore, which means it's game on. She is fully determined to win him over and live a happily married life no matter what it takes. Her maid notices her zoning out and asks if something is wrong, but Lieselata quickly slaps her poker face back on, quietly saying no, while staring at her handsome new husband's back with the intensity of a level 99 simp. But of course, the path to a happy anime marriage is never easy. Lurking in the shadows, a salty, slicked-back human noble glares at the demon bride, scoffing at the idea of peace. Convinced she's secretly plotting humanity's downfall, which is hilarious considering her only real plot is figuring out how to hold Schmerz's hand, he vows to expose her true colors to the world. Looks like our lovesick demon princess is going to have a seriously hard time keeping her fangirl tendencies a secret while dealing with humanity's massive trust issues. Now that the terrifying wedding is officially out of the way, the newlywed couple is relocated to their new home, a creepy, run-down old tower built in the far, isolated corner of the human castle. But for Lieselata, this gloomy setup is the absolute perfect setting for the final phase of her master plan. Since she and the hero are now legally bound as a sign of peace, she figures there's only one logical thing left to do to truly seal the deal. Cut to a dark, stormy night. Schmerz is sound asleep in his room, his trusty sword resting right next to his bed. Suddenly, his elite hero instincts kick in, and his eyes snap open just in time for a massive jump scare. His demonic bride is crawling onto his mattress, looming over him in the pitch black with an intense, glowing glare like a literal sleep paralysis demon. Startled out of his mind, the ultimate savior of humanity scrambles backward, clutching his bedsheets to his chest like a frightened maiden while yelling her name. Annoyed that she lost the element of surprise, Lieselata clicks her tongue, and when Schmerz frantically demands to know what the hell she is doing in his room, she puts on her most arrogant smirk. Trying to play it smooth, she reminds him that since they aren't enemies anymore and are destined to be husband and wife, it's only natural for them to share a bedroom. Blushing slightly but keeping her haughty attitude, she crosses her arms and tells him to stand proud, because he has the absolute honor of keeping someone as amazing as her for a wife. Schmerz, however, is completely immune to her weirdly aggressive charm. He tells her to cut the crap, entirely convinced that this entire routine is a distraction and she actually sneaked in to murder him in his sleep. Genuinely offended by the accusation, Lieselata yells back, but Schmerz is way more focused on the logistics, demanding to know how she even got inside when he specifically locked the door. Without missing a beat, Lieselata casually admits she just ordered a ghostly poltergeist to pick the lock from the inside. Yep, the undead witch literally used dark necromancy for a midnight booty call. Schmerz glares at her like she belongs in an asylum, asking what is wrong with her and what she possibly gains from acting like this. Flustered and insulted, Lieselata throws a mini tantrum, yelling that she's the one trying to make romantic advances here and he's the one rudely declining them. But Schmerz completely shuts the rom-com routine down with a cold, harsh dose of reality. Looking her dead in the eye, he reminds her of his vow at the altar. He will never consider her his wife. He bluntly states that while he generally loves women, she falls into a totally different category. Staring her down with a freezing, hostile glare, he hits her with the ultimate soul-crushing rejection. He does not, and will never, trust demons. Hearing Schmerz bluntly declare his hatred and total lack of trust for demons, Lieselata is absolutely shook. The hero doesn't even give her a second to process the rejection. He just points at the door and yells at her to get out. Before she can even argue, he slams the door shut right in her face, leaving the terrifying demon lord's daughter sitting on the floor in the hallway, completely dumbfounded and whining, "I can't believe this." The next morning, her loyal maid Amelia cheerfully greets her, totally missing the fact that Lieselata is radiating pure murderous depression. Dropping a basket of freshly washed laundry, Amelia gasps, asking if that incredibly imposing, terrifying glare is the face of someone fully ready to embrace the human lifestyle. Lieselata, practically vibrating with frustration, admits that she was so devastated by Schmerz's rejection that she couldn't sleep a wink. Suddenly, a chaotic crash comes from the kitchen as several other demon maids scream about a bubbling pot overflowing onto the very sheets Amelia just washed. Lieselata sighs at her noisy servants, pulls herself together, and decides to try again. Putting on her best haughty princess smile, she catches Schmerz walking down the stairs in his sleek black training gear and greets him with a cheerful, "Good morning." She casually brushes off last night's disaster, claiming it's all water under the bridge, and smoothly suggests they have breakfast together since Amelia is cooking, using it as an excuse for him to learn more about her. But Schmerz doesn't even break his stride. He coldly rejects the offer, stating flat out that he will not eat anything made by a demon. Lieselata's smile violently twitches. "We can't even enjoy a meal together?" she yells, but Schmerz just ignores her and slams the door on his way out. Refusing to give up, Lieselata marches right out to the courtyard where Schmerz is diligently practicing his sword swings. Putting on a sweet, supportive wife persona, she praises his dedication and then completely destroys the peaceful morning vibe by shoving a steaming, bubbling pot right in his face. A terrifying, drooling slime monster literally rises out of the broth and growls at him. Lieselata proudly announces that she made him slime soup, claiming he won't have any energy for training if he doesn't eat. Schmerz loses his absolute mind, screaming that she's putting literal monsters in his food just to attack him. Lieselata aggressively defends her cooking, yelling that it's a perfectly standard stamina-enhancing meal in the demon world, but Schmerz isn't buying it. He calls her a filthy liar, claiming no one actually puts living slimes in their food, and flat out tells her to get lost. But our demon princess is nothing if not persistent. Completely ignoring his anger, she strikes an elegant pose, playfully asking if he'd like to escort her for a walk instead, or maybe even spar with her since she's an elite member of the demon army. Schmerz finally hits his breaking point and just screams, "Shut up!" at the top of his lungs. What follows is a hilarious montage of Lieselata relentlessly stalking Schmerz around the castle grounds like an obsessed fan, trying to get his attention while he aggressively ignores her existence. Watching this pathetic display from afar, Amelia is absolutely fuming. She growls in anger, furious that this lowly human is treating the great Lieselata like a total nuisance. Meanwhile, Lieselata is deep in thought, seriously plotting her next move. She mutters to herself, trying to figure out how to get close to him, which completely shocks Amelia. The maid gasps, realizing her terrifying mistress isn't plotting to kill the hero, she actually just wants to get closer to him. Sweating nervously, Lieselata realizes she absolutely cannot tell her fiercely loyal maid that she's hopelessly in love with the human hero. So, she quickly pivots, throwing on her best mastermind villain voice to cover up her massive simp energy. She tells Amelia that if she manages to get close to Schmerz, he'll lower his guard, explaining that the king isolated them in this crappy outer tower out of fear, so by getting buddy-buddy with the humans, they can earn their trust and secretly expand their demonic influence. To really sell the lie, she flashes a terrifying fanged smile, boasting that they are prideful demons and fear is all it takes to make humans surrender. Amelia, however, completely misses the nuanced diplomacy angle. Hyped up on demon pride, the maid declares that she'll just go talk Schmerz down herself. Lieselota tries to stop her, but it's too late. Sneaking around a corner, the demon princess watches in utter horror as her maid marches right up to the hero outside. Amelia fiercely demands that he show Lieselota some respect, hyping up her mistress like she's reading a maxed-out RPG stat sheet. She boasts about Lieselota's overwhelming magic that could instantly wipe out armies, her confident attitude, her beautiful figure, and how she is the absolute prime example of what every demon woman strives to be. Watching from the bushes, Lieselota is actually super moved, blushing at the glowing review. But Schmerz? He just sighs, rubbing his temples, stating that this just proves humans and demons will never understand each other. Completely misreading the room, Amelia decides to teach him personally, generously offering Schmerz the grand, absolute privilege of acting as Lieselota's personal human chair. Yeah, that was the final straw. A vein pops on Schmerz's forehead and he absolutely loses it, screaming at both of them to scram. Cut to the aftermath. Amelia is bawling her eyes out, apologizing for being useless, while Lieselota just face palms, awkwardly excusing herself to go hang up the laundry just to escape the sheer cringe. Later, hanging up sheets in the courtyard, Lieselota admits to herself that while she knew getting along wouldn't be instant, being so actively hated by her crush is seriously depressing. Her pity party is interrupted when she notices Amelia casually deadlifting a massive stack of heavy concrete blocks just to secure the clothesline. Lieselota is shocked, remembering when the maid used to cry over lifting even one of those. Amelia cheerfully explains that she simply followed Lieselota's past advice. Believe in yourself and never give up. It sounds like a cheesy shonen anime quote, but hearing those words bounces right back to our lovesick demon princess. Believe in myself, Lieselota repeats, a new fire igniting in her eyes. Pumping her fist in the air, she declares she isn't giving up, warning Schmerz to prepare himself. And oh boy, she takes that motivation to the absolute extreme. Later that night, Schmerz is trying to wash off the stress of the day in the bath, only to be hit with yet another massive jump scare. Lieselota sneaks right into the washroom wearing absolutely nothing but a towel, casually asking how the water temperature is and announcing she's joining him. Schmerz is flabbergasted, yelling at her to give him 5 minutes of peace, but Lieselota just giggles, teasingly claiming she knows he's secretly enjoying it. Completely exhausted by this girl's antics, Schmerz reaches out to push her face away and tell her to leave. But because the anime gods demand fan service, his foot slips on the wet floor. He falls forward, pinning the demon princess right against the tiles in a classic heart-pounding romantic trope. Lieselota is blushing furiously, staring up into his eyes, and tries to play it smooth, smirking and giving him credit for protecting her fall, teasing that he's actually pretty gentle despite his harsh words. But the romantic tension shatters instantly. The atmosphere goes freezing cold as Schmerz looms over her, his eyes dead and full of pure hatred. He tells her, point blank, that he loathes demons. He vows that he will make her kind pay for the sins of oppressing and murdering his friends, his village, and all of mankind. Grinding his teeth, he drops the ultimate bombshell on his new bride. Not even her father, the demon lord, will escape his blade. He gets up and leaves her sitting alone on the cold bathroom floor, leaving Lieselota staring after him with a heartbroken expression, finally realizing just how impossibly deep the hero's grudge really runs. The very next morning, Schmerz is outside getting his sweat on with some intense shirtless push-ups, clearly trying to work off the stress of having a demon stalker for a wife. But Lieselota isn't about to let last night's brutal death threat ruin her domestic vibes. Having set up a whole fancy, high-society tea party right there in the training yard, she cheerfully greets him, noting the beautiful breeze and playfully suggesting he take a break to enjoy a totally normal, non-lethal breakfast with her. Schmerz doesn't even look at her, flat out telling her not to talk to him. Unbothered, Lieselate tries to play the innocent wife card, insisting she just wants to get along and promising that there are absolutely no live slime monsters hiding in the pastries today, so he can eat without worry. But Schmerz isn't falling for the cute routine. Grabbing his massive sword while still incredibly shirtless, because, anime rules, he points the blade right at her and scoffs at the very idea of them getting along. He angrily asks if she has any idea how many innocent humans her kind has slaughtered, doubling down on his vow that they will never, ever coexist. Throwing his signature hero coat over his bare shoulders like an absolute edgelord, he turns his back on her and just walks away. Lieselate pouts, demanding to know where he's going, but the hero is already checked out. So, where exactly does the ultimate savior of humanity go to escape his overly attached demon bride? Straight to the local tavern/brothel, obviously. Down in the lively lower city, Schmerz is chilling at the bar, nursing a drink while two gorgeous, busty hostesses fawn all over him, calling him their hero and savior. One of the girls playfully asks if he should really be hanging out in a red light district when he's got a brand new royal fiancé at home. But Schmerz just sighs, saying it doesn't matter because this is the only place he actually feels at ease. The sweet older madame running the joint walks up, noticing he looks pretty depressed, and generously offers his drinks on the house. Schmerz tries to be the honorable protagonist and insists on paying his tab, but the madam won't hear of it. She gives him a warm, motherly smile, telling him that it's all thanks to him that the world is finally peaceful again. She explains that no one ever thought they'd see the day where they didn't have to live in constant, crippling terror of demon ambushes, so a few free drinks are literally the least they can do to repay him. As the girls cheerfully chant his name, Schmerz stares down into his glass, his mind plunging into a dark, horrific flashback. We see a young Schmerz smiling as the village kids invite him to play, a wholesome, happy memory that is instantly shattered by the gruesome image of those same kids lying dead and bloodied in the dirt, massacred by a sudden demon raid. He remembers the sheer, remorseless brutality of the monsters, recalling giant pigmen laughing about how humans are nothing but insects, while the surviving villagers desperately begged for a hero to save them. Snapping back to the present, Schmerz internally monologues with a heavy heart, thinking about how demons are an inherently violent, selfish bunch. His entire life's mission, the reason he swung his sword so hard, was to create a world where humanity never had to fear them again. But as he takes another bitter sip of his drink, he grimly admits to himself that he never, in his wildest dreams, expected his heroic ideals to be realized by being forced into a political marriage with the daughter of the monster who caused all his trauma. As Schmerz silently broods over his tragic backstory, one of the hostesses curiously asks what his new fiancée, the demon lord's daughter, is actually like. Schmerz just groans, grabbing his head as a massive headache kicks in. He admits he has absolutely no damn clue what Lieselate is thinking. Every other demon he's ever met looked down on humans, yet she keeps relentlessly approaching him, claiming she just wants to get along. He firmly decides to just forget about her for now, downing the rest of his drink. But the universe, and Lieselate, has other plans. Suddenly, a smug voice calls out, "Oi!" from right behind him. Schmerz turns around, absolutely horrified to see his demonic bride standing there in a massive, totally inconspicuous witch hat. She grins, proudly declaring that she finally found him. Schmerz glares at her, demanding to know why the hell she is here. Still grinning, Lieselate casually reveals that she just had one of her ghosts stalk him all the way from the castle. Looking around the tavern, she connects the dots, raising an eyebrow at the pretty hostesses and asking if this is where he goes to do those things. Instead of explaining, Schmerz tells her it's none of her business and coldly orders her to leave and never come near him again. But Lieselate, entirely unfazed by his hostility, simply crosses her arms and says she begs to differ. While the two of them have an intense stare-down, the hostesses nervously wonder if things are about to get messy. But then, one of the girls gets a wildly brilliant, terrible idea. Smirking, she practically throws herself onto Schmerz, squeezing his arm against her massive chest while calling him out. Lieselate's jaw completely drops, her eyes wide with pure, unfiltered jealousy. Absolutely losing her mind, she screams, "Who are you? Get away from him!" and actually smashes a wooden stool over a nearby table in a fit of rage. Before the jealous demon princess can start a full-blown tavern brawl, a commotion erupts on the other side of the room. A drunk, sleazy guy is aggressively grabbing the wrist of a terrified waitress, demanding she entertain him. The poor girl is crying, telling him it hurts and begging him to stop, but the drunkard just gets more aggressive. "You bitch," he slurs, pulling out a dagger. "I'm telling you to obey," the waitress screams as he raises the blade, but before he can strike, Schmerz is already there. With lightning speed, the hero grabs the guy's arm, easily stopping the blade in midair. With a cold, intimidating glare, Schmerz grips the guy's wrist hard, demanding to know his deal and telling him to mind his own business since a tavern is no place to draw a sword. Watching the hero step up, the madame warmly smiles at Lieselada, telling the worried girl that there's no need to stress. She explains that Schmerz often comes by not just to drink, but to act as an unofficial bouncer, protecting the girls from difficult customers. Hearing this, Lieselada lets out a massive sigh of relief, realizing her husband isn't actually here to cheat on her. He's just being the heroic guy she fell in love with. The drunk guy's buddy panics, recognizing Schmerz as the legendary hero and warning his friend to back down. But the drunkard is way past the point of reason. He hiccups, slurring out, "Hero my ass. All he did was get engaged with a demon." Oof, buddy. You just pressed the absolute worst button in the room. Hearing the drunkard insult Schmerz, a dark shadow falls over Lieselada's face. The hero warns the guy to say what he wants but not cause trouble, noting that rumors say he only got his holy sword and rewards because he was the king's bootlicker, so who really knows the truth? But Lieselada isn't about to let anyone talk trash about her man. Stepping out from the shadows, her eyes glowing with absolute fury, she tells the drunkard he's been quite rude and warns him not to make fun of Schmerz. The drunkard just laughs, thinking she's just another hostess, and steps right up to her, mockingly asking if she's the one who's going to entertain him next. With a sleazy grin, he literally gropes her waist. Big mistake, buddy. Massive mistake. The absolute disrespect makes Lieselada's blood boil. Realizing Schmerz was right and that humans and demons might truly never coexist with scum like this around, she snaps. Her terrifying, world-ending demon aura explodes out of her. The entire tavern shakes as she violently slaps the guy's hand away, grabbing his collar and lifting him off the floor with one hand. "Don't you dare touch me, you insolent fool!" she snarls, the sheer menace in her voice cracking the wooden walls around them. The hostesses scream in terror, and even Schmerz is sweating bullets, thinking, "Shit, is she trying to kill him?" But before she turns the guy into red mist, she notices the alcohol. Smirking wickedly, she drops him and challenges him to a drinking contest instead, vowing to show him true fear. Cut to a few hours later, the drunkard is completely passed out, foaming at the mouth on the floor, while Lieselada casually sips from a delicate wine glass, completely sober and looking flawless. The hostesses are amazed that she literally drank the guy under the table, but the alcohol has definitely hit the demon princess a little differently. Her cheeks are flushed, and she turns to Schmerz with a huge, goofy smile, slurring her words and actually meowing at him. "I hope you learnt your lesson and will know when to stop from meow on," she giggles, completely ruining her intimidating villain persona. Schmerz just stares at her, deadpan, noting that she's absolutely wasted, but he can't hide the tiny, relieved sweat drop on his face. The next day, things are back to normal at the outer tower. Schmerz is training hard, and Lieselada has set up yet another elaborate tea party in the courtyard. She cheerfully invites him to join her, noting the lovely weather. Schmerz sighs, amazed that she never gives up. But before he can walk away again, she drops a genuine soft smile and says, "This doesn't mean I trust you, got it?" For a brief second, the ice between them seems to thaw just a little bit. But trouble is already brewing back at the main castle. The human nobles are holding a secret meeting. That salty, slicked-back advisor from earlier is reporting to the human princess, Celestina. He claims their lookout spotted the demon lord's daughter viciously assaulting a citizen down in the lower city. The princess plays the concerned royal perfectly, gasping in horror and shaking her head, whispering that demons will always be demons, pretending to be friendly while secretly tormenting poor citizens. The advisor agrees, stating it's time to reveal Lieselada's true, despicable nature at once. But as he pledges his loyalty, A dark, sinister smile creeps across Princess Celestina's face. Looks like humanity might be hiding some real monsters of its own, and our lovesick demon princess is walking right into a royal trap. In the royal palace, where Princess Celestina is making it very clear that she doesn't trust Lieselata, the demon lord's daughter, one bit. To Celestina, any friendly behavior from a demon is nothing but a cheap facade because, let's face it, demons have spent generations doing nothing but fighting and killing humans. Her stern-looking advisor fully agrees, expressing his deep sympathy for the hero, Schmerz, who was essentially forced into this political marriage with a demon. Suddenly, Celestina gets what she thinks is a genius idea, to invite the demon princess to a tea party. The advisor is fully on board, promising to accompany her so he can keep his eyes peeled and expose whatever hidden demonic plots she might have up her sleeve. And just to make sure we know she's not messing around, Celestina stares out the window with a look that practically screams, "Scheming villain," declaring that these despicable demons are about to face the hammer of justice. Talk about a dramatic welcome. Meanwhile, over at the demon side of things, Lieselata is getting her hair brushed by her maid, looking totally oblivious to the storm brewing against her. When she receives the invitation, she finds the wording surprisingly casual, asking her to simply hang out and enjoy some delicious tea. Even though she has no clue what the human princess is actually like, Lieselata smiles confidently and decides to take on the challenge. Stepping outside to the carriage, she meets up with Schmerz, who is looking as brooding and stoic as ever. When she politely asks him to escort her, he turns away with a cold humph, claiming he's only doing it because he was ordered to. He even goes so far as to warn her not to intimidate the princess, clearly still traumatized by whatever went down at their wedding ceremony. Lieselata is left utterly confused, thinking to herself that she would never do anything of the sort. As they ride together in the carriage, she reveals her actual game plan. If she can successfully make friends with the human princess, maybe Schmerz will finally start looking at her in a better light. With that adorable determination, she arrives at the Grand Palace. They are escorted into a beautiful, sunlit garden filled with roses, where Princess Celestina greets them with a bright, glowing smile, welcoming them to her domain. It looks like the ultimate clash of diplomacy and hidden agendas is about to begin, and Lieselata has absolutely no idea what kind of trap she just walked into. First, Princess Celestina introduces her heavily armored guard, Klug, who is the knight captain of the kingdom's order. Celestina sweet talks about hoping they can all get along, but Klug's face tells a completely different story as he shoots Lieselata an absolute death glare. Naturally, our demon princess isn't about to back down from a staring contest, glaring right back at him with pure irritation. Before things can get physical, Schmerz politely steps in to thank the princess for the invite. Instantly, Celestina switches into fangirl mode, completely ignoring Lieselata to fawn over Schmerz and babble about the delicious sweets and tea she has prepared. Feeling totally squeezed out of the conversation, Lieselata literally rushes in to reassert her presence, firmly introducing herself as the demon princess and Schmerz's wife. Celestina forces on a tight smile, claiming she has always wanted to meet her, before dropping a subtle dig about how much courage it must have taken for Lieselata to come to the human kingdom all by herself. At the table, Celestina serves famous baked goods and Sylvia's rose tea, a legendary brand that even Lieselata heard of back in the demon world. Lieselata takes a sip, genuinely enjoying the rich aroma and complimenting the human world's black tea. But Celestina, being an absolute master of passive aggression, giggles and subtly insults her guest by saying she's grateful Lieselata has such a tolerant palate for what is actually a rather low-grade tea for this time of year. Talk about a backhanded compliment. Lieselata's jaw drops at the sheer disrespect, but she holds her ground, clapping back that low-grade doesn't mean bad quality. Schmerz looks incredibly uncomfortable watching this psychological warfare play out.
Celestina gasps dramatically, acting as if she committed a tragedy by not asking for their preferences beforehand. Schmerz awkwardly admits it's just his first time attending something like this, prompting Celestina to gush over how honored she is to share his first ever tea party. Lieselata immediately pops back in to remind everyone she is also a guest, but Celestina is busy showering Schmerz with praise about his heroics, his new marquis title, and his shiny medal. Seeing Schmerz look down at his medal with deep-seated imposter syndrome, recalling how he felt entirely unworthy of it, Lieselata decides to boost his spirit. She proudly tells him to be confident, since he is her partner, explaining that having confidence is just common sense for the demon race to prove their existence. This prompts Celestina to throw another underhanded jab, calling Lieslot bold for holding her head high in a foreign country. Lieslot narrows her eyes, firing back that Celestina seems quite bold herself. Underneath those sweet smiles, both girls are absolutely ready to throw hands. Lieslot is fuming, wondering why this woman keeps trying to provoke her, while Celestina is secretly wondering if the demon wants a fight. Seeking to gain the upper hand, Celestina decides to lead Schmerz away to look at her rose garden, physically clinging to his arm. Absolutely not having it, Lieslot aggressively pushes herself right between them, pretending to admire the flowers while screaming internally for the princess to get her hands off her man. Determined to get a reaction, Celestina takes the petty route and straight up bumps into Lieslot, nearly knocking her off her feet. She plays it off with a totally fake apology, which immediately pushes Lieslot's patience to the absolute limit. You can practically see the dark, menacing aura radiating off the demon princess, and for a split second, it looks like a royal brawl is about to go down. Both Schmerz and the knight captain, Klug, immediately tense up, preparing to draw their weapons. However, Lieslot manages to rein in her fury, taking a deep breath and telling herself that she is far too classy to lose her temper over someone so annoying. Seeing her first provocation fail, Celestina tisks in annoyance before pivoting to plan B. She brings up the undead servants from Lieslot's wedding ceremony, asking if they are nearby. Lieslot, trying to play along, explains that her undead are actually sealed inside her ring and can be summoned whenever she likes. Ignoring Schmerz's warning that it is way too dangerous, Celestina acts all curious and begs to see one. Eager to make a good impression and totally falling for the bait, Lieslot activates her ring, summoning a towering, incredibly creepy hooded undead. The moment the creature appears, Celestina fakes a panic attack, wobbling dramatically so she can conveniently fall right into Schmerz's arms. As Celestina blushes and clings to Schmerz's chest, thanking him for the rescue, Lieslot stands there completely dumbfounded, watching another woman cuddle her husband. Her jealousy instantly hits a boiling point, and her raw rage accidentally triggers her undead servant, which senses her anger and turns on the garden. Lieslot panics, desperately shouting at the summon to stop, but it is already too late. The undead drains the life force right out of the princess's precious white roses, leaving them completely withered and dead. Celestina screams in horror as Schmerz holds her close, but behind her hand, she is actually sporting a devious, victorious smirk. The trap has officially sprung. Knight Captain Klug immediately draws his sword, accusing Lieslot of showing her true demonic nature and ordering an attack on the royal gardens. Poor Lieslot frantically tries to explain that it was a total accident and that she didn't mean to do it, but nobody is listening. Schmerz looks at her with deep disappointment while Celestina clings to his back, playing the perfect victim. Before Lieslot can even process how badly she just got played, Klug grabs her tightly by the wrist and declares her under arrest. Talk about walking straight into a trap, and now our demon princess is in some incredibly hot water,